the silence that descended on the room wasn't the polite lull of a conversation pausing. It was the heavy, suffocating kind that presses against your eardrums. My husband blinked rapidly as if he'd misheard me, while his mother, Marina, actually froze mid-chew. For the first time in 7 years, I didn't offer a reassuring smile. My name is Elena, I'm 34, and until that precise moment, I was known as the reasonable wife, the calm one, the woman who was easy to step over. Despite funding the majority of our lifestyle, I was treated like a temporary guest in my own marriage, especially by Marina, who viewed my salary as a family asset she was entitled to manage by birthright. That dinner began like countless others, her apartment reeking of scorched chicken and chemical lemon cleaner. The table was set with rigid formality, as if we were strangers auditioning for approval. Marina launched into her usual interrogation, polite questions with jagged edges, designed to cut without leaving a mark. "So, Elena," she asked, eyes darting to my handbag, "are your bonuses still volatile? It must be stressful not knowing your actual disposable income." I answered calmly, as I always did, swallowing the fact that my unstable job paid for the car we drove and the medical bills she quietly passed to my husband. But then she laughed, a soft, indulgent sound, and turned to him. "Well, at least her income is useful to the family when needed. That is what wives are for, after all." Something inside me finally clicked into place. I didn't look at her. I locked eyes with my husband and warned him, in a voice terrifyingly low and clear, that one more comment about my money would end our polite dynamic forever. I told him I would explain exactly how the finances worked: boundaries, ownership, and reality. He didn't speak. He just stared at his water glass while Marina smirked like she'd won. That was the realization. This wasn't about dinner. I was done waiting for him to choose me. The drive home was a blur of city lights and tension. Silence has a physical weight when it's chosen. And I watched his knuckles whiten on the wheel, waiting for a defense that never came. Instead, he finally exhaled and muttered, "You didn't have to make it so awkward." Awkward, not humiliating or invasive, just awkward. That's when the pattern sharpened. Marina disguised greed as concern, and he smoothed it over, telling me family doesn't keep score. But family doesn't send Venmo requests at midnight or count my income like an inheritance. The first crack in my resolve appeared a week later, disguised as casual conversation. My husband mentioned over coffee that his mother was downsizing and wondered if we could bridge the gap. The number he whispered was exactly my monthly net income. I let out a sharp, surprised laugh, and you agreed. He frowned, muttering we'd talk, but talking usually meant me conceding. That night, I scrolled through our shared accounts. The small betrayals lined up perfectly: utilities for a house I didn't live in, subscriptions I didn't use, gifts labeled miscellaneous. He bankrolled her life, assuming I'd never check. The public humiliation followed at a birthday lunch. Marina stood up to toast, thanking me for being a supportive wife who understands money isn't just hers once she marries. My husband smiled. My chest went hollow, not from pain, but from a surgical detachment. I stood up, raising my glass. "To clarity," I said steadily, because misunderstandings grow when people assume access they were never granted. The room froze. My husband hissed at me to sit, but I didn't. In that silence, they realized I wouldn't be quiet anymore. I didn't cry later. I showered, changed, and while my husband paced, explaining intent, I opened my laptop and started the separation. Calm isn't sudden, it settles when a decision is made. I listed my income, contributions, and the access I'd given based on trust. I called the bank, separated accounts, and revoked authorizations. Then I sent one email: polite, clear, and unemotional, outlining boundaries and reimbursement expectations. Revenge doesn't need noise, it needs timing. When I looked up, I told my husband, "Don't worry, I'm handling it." 3 days later, Marina called, voice dripping with fake sweetness, about a transfer error. I told her there was no error. The temporary access was corrected. When she panicked about counting on that money, I reminded her that future support needs agreement. My husband confronted me that evening, panic-stricken that I hadn't warned him. "I did warn you," I said. The next day, I sent Marina a formal repayment request. Fear replaced her anger, and she ran to my husband, claiming I was humiliating her. He came home defeated, saying she might have to sell her apartment. "That's her decision," I said gently. When the deadline passed, I didn't chase her. I had my lawyer send a formal letter. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk. Marina paid everything quietly because my lawyer discovered that years of family help funneled through my accounts had tax implications she couldn't afford to expose. My money had been her cover. When my husband asked if we were okay, I gave him the final clarity. I warned you, I said. Not her. You. I moved out 2 weeks later, financially intact and legally clean. Marina lost access. My husband lost his comfortable silence, and I gained control. Money reveals entitlement, but boundaries reveal character, and I learned exactly who they were the moment I stopped being useful.